Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. I'm Robert Chirabonyonyitono. What a bright sunny day when I look outside our studios. Well, the sun is all out and I hope you have no excuse to arrive late, because sometimes, you know, being the pearl of Africa, 2 rainy seasons with climate change, sometimes you get rains even when you don't expect them. And there's something you can justify it as rain. But today, well, very brighty sunny morning that we are experiencing here in Kampala. Good morning and thank you for being with us on UBC TV. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra, an extension of Good Morning Uganda. Please make it a date with us. Every weekday from 6:30 we are here, and what do? We inform you of what is happening locally and internationally. We brighten up your moments, your mornings with all kind of laughter, jokes here, very informative. And we update you with what is happening in the print media. Sports lovers, you get the sports updates. We have Good Morning Uganda agenda there also to give you an insight of some of the issues of concern. This morning, I'm having a very interesting topic. Very interesting topic. And I have a very interesting guest. I've hosted her for about 3 times, and every time her passion towards animal protection just amazes me. And this is none other than Edith Kabesime, who happens to be the campaign manager at World Animal Protection. Now, yesterday was World Snake Day. Have you ever heard of that? Well, if you've not, then here I bring you more information about this. This is an internationally recognized day, and it aims at reminding ourselves about the significance of snakes and why we need to protect them. Now, very interesting. Many people look at snakes as, one said serpents, as one told me that even when you read the Bible, well, it was clear that we shall not meet. Once we meet, we must work on them and eliminate them. I have a guest who says the relevancy and why we should protect them. Edith, you're most welcome to our studios, and thank you for making time to discuss again your animal protection. Things that are very interesting and complicated as well.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Of course, I'm very pleased to be back here to discuss some of these very, very interesting topics. So, good morning, my interesting viewers.
Now, to begin with, when you talk about World Animal Protection, what do you people do? One thing I know, it is an international organization, but what do you do, and why even should we have such animals as animals?
Yeah, thank you, Robert. World Animal Protection, of course, which is the organization I work for, is an international charity, just like any other international charities you've heard about. Whereas other organizations, most of them focus on really working for the welfare of people. World Animal Protection focuses on really working to improve and safeguard the welfare of animals. And here we mean animals in the wild, and that is, of course, the docket, which I head at World Animal Protection Africa in Nairobi. And then the second program area we focus on is animals in farming. So those are the animals that we use as food, what we call farm animals. And as an organization, we have evolved over time. We are more than 50 years old, and we used to be called WHISPER. That was World Society for the Protection for Animals. But then, of course, over time, we have evolved. Currently, actually since 2013, we are known as World Animal Protection. We are based in London as our headquarters, but then we work globally. We have country offices in 12 countries across the globe, in all the 5 continents, including, of course, Africa, where I mentioned that our region office for Africa is in Nairobi. And our vision is to a world where animals are free from suffering, they are free from cruel treatment, And then, of course, our job is to work with people like you and me and the rest of the world to really protect animals. That's our mission. And that is what we are all about.
Now, of course, even human beings, we are animals. But you look at domestic and you also look at wild. I think the first time we had interactions, we were discussing the African grey parrot. Then there is when we were doing looking at the pangolin. Is it the pangolin?
Yes.
Today, we are discussing protection of snakes and their significance. Now, this brings me to ask Edith for sure and really, why should we even bother? Why should we protect these animals?
First of all, animals are part of nature. And the animals come in different forms. We have terrestrial animals, of course, the ground animals, which you call animals that live on the dry land. But we have animals that live in the water. But, of course, today we are talking about snakes. And majority of snakes, of course, are terrestrial animals, which are believed to have evolved from lizards when we go back to science and evolution. So the significance of this day, which was, of course, yesterday, 16th of July, which we mark every year, is a day we come together as the world community to remind ourselves the significance of snakes. Why? Because, first of all, snakes are part and parcel of the ecosystem. As a component of a natural ecosystem, snakes control, for instance, the population of rodents, that is the rats and other small mammals. They control the population of frogs. And, of course, even they themselves are snakes. They provide food for other animals like birds. So when you think about that, snakes are part of the whole ecosystem. Remove snakes from the ecosystem, of course, you destabilize the whole chain, and that causes ecological imbalance. But leave that alone. Snakes are part of our culture as human beings. In some of the societies, even here in Uganda, some cultures venerate snakes. They are regarded as sacred. They are part of our culture. So in West Africa, some communities look at snakes as spiritual and really venerate them as very, very sacred creatures that they must protect. Even here back home in Bunyoro, for instance, Banyoro used to, I don't know whether they still do, but reptiles, especially the pythons, are very, very sacred when it comes to the Bunyoro culture. If a snake entered your house, especially python, you are not supposed to kill it. You are not supposed to remove it. You have to call special people who know how to do it, to remove it. So that's how important these snakes are. So basically, they are part of the ecosystem. They are sanitizers, and in that regard, we need to protect them. But also, in their own right, as living beings, they are like me and you. They have feelings, they have emotions, they have, they give birth. So they need to be protected from that perspective. So whether these animals are valuable to us or not, there's that intrinsic value of wild animals and any other animals. They have that intrinsic value. Whether they are useful to us or not, they have to be protected because they're just like me and you. Yeah, they feel pain, they feel emotions, they're just like me and you.
Now, that said, you've rightly explained why we need to protect them, but there are dangers still. I can coexist with a parrot. I can coexist with a monkey. Look at animals that you advocate for their rights. And I find it very hard to coexist with a snake if it's in your house. Where I come from, even have a saying, if a snake is in a pot, you want to cook. So these are some of the things that I've seen so many people, even they have to bring expert spray their home in case they are somewhere hidden so that they can die. We view snakes as a danger to us more than of any other use. If I told people that a snake has entered in the studios here, everyone would look for a stick to eliminate it. So why should we much as you've given those. And do you think really this cause can generate, it can be a campaign that can generate public concern, protection of snakes?
First of all, let's see where we come from. As children, even historically, we have been taught that snakes are very dangerous. That's what the Bible says, that's what our parents will tell us, that's what everybody will tell us. A serpent, say serpent, that's what will tell us. But people, it's because it's out sort of ignorance that we do not know much about snakes. So because of that ignorance, then we have that fear that has been instilled in us, that we see snakes in that perspective. Why? When we look at snakes globally, there are about around 3,700 species of snakes. Okay, between 3,500 to 3,700 species of snakes globally. Out of those, it's like less than 50% of those can actually be harmful to human beings. If we take an example of Uganda, we have around slightly over 100 species of snakes. And out of those, about 6 species, can be regarded as venomous. I don't want to call them poisonous because that's even a wrong term technically. Around 6 you can consider them fatal if you get a bite from them. It can be very, very fatal. So meaning that majority of snakes are innocent, but the public does not know that information. And the significance of this day and why I'm here is actually to raise that awareness that not every snake is poisonous, not every snake is dangerous. Besides, snakes do not look for people to bite them. They do not look for people. Snakes, first of all, they have very, very limited amount of poison in their glands. They have a gland somewhere where they keep their poison. And that poison is usually very, very small amounts. So snakes are very clever. They do not waste their poison on unimportant things like human beings. They reserve their poison for food, to look for food. Because they use that same poison, when they grab their prey, they inject some of that poison so that to subdue the prey. So they reserve that poison. So when they bite a person, it is out of defense. They are defending themselves because they have been surprised. But naturally, snakes do not go out looking for people to bite. So that's some of the information I would like the public to know, that snakes are some of the most peaceful beings if we we give them their space and we keep distance. Why do snakes come to our homes? Snakes come to our homes because we have created conditions for them to come to our homes. When you rear a chicken and you have a lot of chicken feed all around, you have chicks all around, you have eggs scattered all around, snakes, first of all, rats will come looking for the maize that the chickens feed on. So in that process, not snakes, rats, many rats will come looking for maize. In the process, the snakes will also come looking for the rats. So you are highly likely that if you rear a chicken and you have a lot of maize, the maize will feed on our chicken, then you'll have a big population of snakes in your compound. So we can avoid snakes by not creating conditions for them. We keep stagnant water around our homes. Then we attract frogs at night. When we attract frogs, then snakes will come looking for the frogs. So we can avoid snakes. Yes, I don't want to be naive and say snakes are harmless. They are harmful if you come into contact with them, but we can avoid them. And for me, that is the message. Let's avoid them, leave them to be in their own environments by not creating conditions that attract them to us. Besides, as I said, majority of snakes are harmless. Like the normal house snake you see.
There's this.
It comes, it coils in the corner, and even if you start hitting it, it will not fight back. That is the normal brown house snake, which is not poisonous and it's not venomous, and it will not bite you. Even if it bites, attempts, it doesn't have the venom to kill anybody. But also the message I want to really put across is that because we do not know much about snakes, it's important that when we see them, we don't try to fight them, because you never know the snake you're fighting. There are some snakes which are very, very aggressive, like the mamba. The mamba can grow almost up to almost 15 feet long, and that can really fight. And the mamba will kill you in a couple of, if it gives you a bite, within 20, 30 minutes, if you don't get the right treatment, you will pass out. And by the end of the day, you'll see your creator. So some snakes can fight, like the mamba, the black mamba, like the king called the cobra, those can fight. So it's important, don't just say snake there and then you call everybody, come we fight it, because you do not know the type of snake you are fighting. Yes. The advice is, once you say snake, move backwards. And in most cases, snakes will move in the opposite direction. No snake will come towards you to attack unless you have attacked it, if it's the fighting type. So why you ask that, do I think this is the campaign that can pick momentum and people will believe me? For me, it's not about whether people rally behind me to shout snakes, let's protect them. It's about people learning and getting this information right. That first of all, not all snakes are dangerous. Secondly, don't attempt to fight snakes. Once you say snake, most likely the snake will move away, because snakes don't like people. They don't like danger. They'll move away. Secondly, if you see a snake, the authorities, like Uganda Wildlife Authority, call Uganda Wildlife Authority. They'll come to your rescue. If it's in a place like that, likely the snake will be there for hours. Even for a whole day, the snake can keep there as long as it's not disturbed. And experts will come and pick it. That's the message I would like to put across. But then, of course, when you go back to the other issue of protecting them, we need to protect them in different ways, because currently our law allows extraction of snakes from the wild and the trading in them where they are exported, where they are used as pets. In some countries, snakes are used as pets. Even the poisonous snakes, people use them as pets. But of course, the pythons are the most treated as pets, especially from West Africa. But also even here in our own local zoos, you've seen many, many snakes being caged. Tourists come, they pay. Our children, we pay, they go and see them. That is not proper environment for them and proper purpose for them.
Now, that is a very interesting bit of it. And I was watching clips, even some international medias. Yesterday I watched a number of stories on CNN about this day, and I was shocked that you, who advocate for animal rights, now these are reptiles we are talking about, were against this. I saw many saying it is very wrong for you to cage these snakes, have them in a zoo, any place where people come and pay. We should leave them in their natural environment, because that is when they can have their full potential. They were showing a number of snakes, of course not very attractive. Some people fear even when they look at them. So they were showing a variety, white cobras, things I'd never seen, even thought they were there. But I picked interest. Now, we have these snakes that come into contact with human beings, and automatically you have no safer place but call the Uganda Wildlife Authority. They come and take them. But also, you know, there's also much superstition associated to snakes. We have, and these are facts here in Africa, even in our communities, I've seen some clips of people who claim to have extra powers, and they have these snakes. I've heard and I've seen people who claim to be mothers to snakes. I don't know scientifically if that can ever be possible. She's claiming, I gave birth to 2 children, this is the other. So much unclear information regarding how people associate. And maybe one would say they're in better conditions. If the wild, we've messed with it, if we can have them, look after them properly. When you go to the zoo, I've seen people, one time we had an artist called, I think she was called Geese Snake. I don't know if you've ever come in
Yes,
contact.
I've heard about her.
Yeah.
And I've seen her in clips.
Yeah, performing with this snake, wherever she is. I think we missed that bit of it, though it was scary at the same time. So why are you against this? And the answer, I want to get that in the next quarter of this show. Let me go for a break.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda wange. Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Road traffic crashes is one of the leading causes of death among young people aged 5 and 29 years. In 2022, Uganda registered 21,473 crashes, out of which 4,534 people died and 15,227 seriously injured. 22 people die every 100 crashes, and on average, we lose 12 people daily. Legacy Road Safety Initiative, in partnership with KCCA, Ministry of Works and Transport, Ministry of Health, Uganda Police Force, Red Cross, Rosaku, Boda Boda Industry Uganda, have organized the second Road Safety Marathon for the crash victims to help create awareness, build cohesion among stakeholders, train first responders at black spots, and support a health facility. The marathon will take place on the 23rd of July 2023, starting at 7 a.m. from Nakasero Primary School grounds. Book your kits at 25,000 from Legacy Road Safety Initiative offices located at Old Kampala Chicken House, 2nd floor, room 18, or 8th Street, Safeway, Rightway offices, Total Energies, Ovino Mall, Boda Boda Industry Uganda, or visit www.lrs-initiative.org to register. Call 0752 605 479 or 0776 598 817 or 0414 698 675. Proudly powered by Daxi Driving School and Wava Water. Run to save a limb.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short break, and thank you for being with us on UBC TV. In case you've just joined, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra, an extension of Good Morning Uganda. I'm still with Edith. This is from Wild Protection. That's Wild Animal Protection,
Yeah.
international NGO that seeks to protect the rights of animals. Now, today we are looking at significance and why we should protect these reptiles, the snakes. Before we went for a break, she was still bringing out the picture of removing snakes from their natural environment and either having them for commercial purposes or as pets, or even in institutions where I believe you are protecting them better than when they're in the wild. Why are you against this?
Yeah, you see, I usually don't like to talk about religious-related stuff. But let me say this, when you read the story of creation, when God created us and created all the other beings, including animals, and of course in this case snakes and other reptiles, he did not put them in captivity. The wild was the best place for them. That is the natural world for them. That's the natural habitat for them. That is where they will live optimally. You see, when you keep an animal in captivity, it's just living. It's not thriving. There's a difference between living and thriving. If I incarcerate you in Luzira prison, you're living, you're not thriving. Why? Because a lot of your freedoms have been curtailed. So when you pick animals from the wild and put them into captivity, then you are, of course, infringing on various freedoms. Animals, just like human beings, have freedoms. In the case of humans, perhaps you call them rights. But animals, what we have generally acknowledged as their freedoms, freedom from thirst and hunger. So when you have them in captivity, you cannot gauge when they are hungry. For instance, how will you know that a snake is hungry?
I feed it morning.
But by instinct,
feed it lunch. And
yeah, but who knows that snakes feed at lunchtime and feed at 3 p.m.? We don't have that science because we are not their creators. So in the wild, they will have the freedom to exercise, to have all those, the freedom to eat when they want, the freedom to drink when they want. And then there is also the freedom from discomfort. When you put an animal in captivity, basically it's not comfortable. Just like they will take you to police cells in Kira, and you will not be comfortable, even if it is 30 minutes. That discomfort, animals just like us experience that discomfort. That's what makes captivity not good for them. Then there is also the freedom from injury, from disease, from death. In captivity, animals usually don't have the right living conditions. When you go to some of those facilities where snakes are held and other animals, you'll find concrete like this. Snakes are not meant to live on concrete. They decide where they want to live, in burrows, under wood, under leaves, in trees. They decide. So in captivity, we are not able to provide them those adequate conditions for them. Then let's talk about the freedom to exercise their natural behavior. In the wild animals, they have associations. Of course, snakes, we don't know whether they associate in the wild. But majority of snakes have families, animals have families. So they should have that freedom to exercise their natural behaviors, just like humans. If you want to find a mate, you move around and you find the most beautiful girl. So just like birds and snakes and other species, they also go out to look for mates. So when they go out, when you put them in captivity, you are curtailing that freedom for them to exercise their natural behavior. And you see the perception by human beings that when you put animals in captivity, they are better off because they are living in a fancy place. That is not correct. It's our own judgment. It's from our perspective as human beings, not their perspective. And that's what makes captivity not appropriate for them. Captivity is a prison. If you have been in some of the zoos, including our national Uganda Wildlife Education Center, which is sort of regarded as a high welfare facility for captive animals, you've seen even lions in big enclosures. You've seen buffaloes in a big enclosure. You've seen birds in a big aviary. The birds are trying to fly, and the net brings them down. The elephants are moving around the enclosure. They never move in the middle of the enclosure. They move around the perimeter of the enclosure, and you find a real footpath around. Why? It's because at heart these animals are wild, and they are looking for every opportunity to get out. That is the discomfort and the suffering they live with all their lives when they are in such circumstances. And that's the reason we are saying, let's leave animals to be in the wild, because that's where they belong. Then you talked about superstitions, that you've seen artists, some of them use animals, of course, as a way of entertaining people. You've seen also some people say, I gave birth to twins. This snake is one of the twins. Of course, there is no scientific evidence to prove that indeed a human being can produce a snake. as you rightly put it, those are superstitions, and we don't have scientific evidence. Some people have seen some witch doctors play around with snakes. Sometimes what they do, of course, there are people who are specialized in capturing snakes. They know how to capture snakes. Even if they are these venomous snakes, they will capture them and then remove the fangs. So when you see a witch doctor playing with a black mamba or playing with a king cobra, and he's telling you he cannot get a bite from that cobra, don't be fooled. This person is skilled in capturing snakes, and is skilled, he's been able to remove the fangs, because it is those fangs which are connected to the gland that are used to inject poison. So be sure those snakes do not have the fangs to bite. They have manipulated them, and they can use them to extort money out of the public. It's just a trick. But unfortunately, some snakes will regrow their fangs. Yes, some snakes will regrow the fangs. And sometimes these tricksters do not have that knowledge that actually some snakes can regrow their fangs. And before they know, the snake has killed them.
Yes, I've
which
read
is unfortunate.
Of a story in Masaka
Yes.
where this man who had made it a habit to scare people was killed by his own.
Yes, they do
So
that.
they regrow.
They do that. The snakes regrow their tongue, their fangs, and those the glands are still there. So the fangs simply regrow, and you know the fangs are like a needle. They have a hole in the middle. So when it bites you, it just sends the venom into your bloodstream, and you're dead.
And
so
then the village hero becomes normal.
Becomes no more. So it is the ignorance. First of all, they use that trick to extort money out of the public, but then they are not aware that actually the fangs can regrow, and the snake becomes dangerous in the long run.
Well, I know my viewers are really now learning so much regarding snakes, and also reasons why we must protect these snakes, because they have great significance. Now, for a number of animals, of late I'm seeing a number of snake parks being opened up. I've ever visited one along Entebbe Road around Chitende. I took that direction. But also, I know you advocates of animals, the number that you've made illegal to possess. For example, one of the things I enjoyed and I grew up dreaming was to have a monkey in my home, to have a parrot. Only when I woke up and the monkey had just purchased for some time, I was told, well, I have a case to answer, because this young man brought for me. Then also a friend of mine I went and visited, they had the Africa grey parrot, 2 of them, and I liked them. Then he said, my brother, if you're to have this parrot at your place, you must have a license or a permit to have it. But I said, I grew up in my village, people had parrots. So what is the fate of snakes? Are they also restricted? Or must you necessarily, what does the law say about these reptiles?
Yeah, just if you look at the Wildlife Act 2019, I think it is third schedule of that act. There is a list of animals, birds, mammals, amphibians, reptiles, insects, name it, which are protected by that law. And in order to, and then the Uganda, again, the same act has what they call use rights. I think there are different categories of use rights, different classes of different use rights. So in order for you to possess any of those protected species as listed in the Act, in Schedule 3, you have to, the law says you have to have permission from Uganda Wildlife Authority. So snakes fall in that category. So all these zoos, some of them just, they really qualify as just roadside zoos. I don't even want to call them zoos. They're just roadside things that where animals are incarcerated, really for no justifiable purpose. So they have permission to do it. And, but of course, from the perspective of us who are against keeping animals in captivity, we do not subscribe to that mode of conservation where animals are kept in captivity as a conservation model, because animals are better conserved in their natural environment. Many of those zoos and facilities, they claim they are promoting conservation education. And I always challenge people. I grew up in I was born and grew up in an area where there was no national park, there were no zoos. I went to school, I had a passion for wildlife, I pursued that career. My first time to interact with animals, I was in high school when we went to Queen Elizabeth National Park, when we were in senior 6. That was my first time to really interact face to face with animals. But the trend of us thinking that we can educate our children about conservation in captive environments, I think is a bad way of teaching children conservation, because as a young person, you'll grow to believe that it's okay to keep animals in captivity, whereas we are actually supposed to tell people that actually these beings are supposed to live in the wild because that is their natural environment.
But there's also a school of thought that in what you refer as captivity is a protection to avoid extinction of some of these. Someone tells you that in the world, the African grey parrot may not be safe. But if we can domesticate this and many people have them, maybe we are protecting them better. One says that there is a specific species of a monkey that is getting extinct. So if you can have these centers protect this, provide similar or next to similar environment, have them reproduce and multiply. We recently never had the white lion. Now if we do this, we've bred this, not in game parks maybe, but at the Wildlife Conservation Education Center in Entebbe. So that is also another school of thought, that the wild, someone is going to cut down a forest, someone is going to burn down a bush, but here they're fairly safe.
Okay.
That's the earning.
I think that is a wrong narrative that has been promoted and promoted and promoted and promoted. And I want to go back and say, captivity can never be a solution for conservation. The most important is to tell people that to desist from destroying their habitats. Because we are using, by putting them in captivity, actually we are using a wrong medicine for the wrong disease. It's like we are treating a symptom. When you take animals in captivity because you fear a forest is going to be cut down, you're actually treating the symptom of the problem. We should be addressing the underlying cause why people are chopping down the habitats for this. Let's go back to the whole issue of where you said you wanted to keep a monkey and all that. I always tell people, if you want birds in your compound, if you want birds, plant a tree. The birds will come. You'll sit on your balcony, you'll see those birds. If you want monkeys, plant pawpaws. The monkeys will come. You don't need to chain them. I have monkeys, they come, they pick pawpaws from my garden. They come, they pick maize from my garden. I have so many snakes, nests of birds in my compound. Why? Because I have put trees and the birds love trees. I have put flowers because bees love flowers. They will come to visit those flowers. Butterflies will come to visit those flowers. So we can create an environment for these animals, and they will come to us, those that we think we desire. They'll come to us when we create conditions for them, rather than putting them in cages. Let's agree, animals are sentient beings. They have emotions, they have families, they want to interact, and when we incarcerate them, we are not protecting them. They are simply living a life of misery in those conditions. What else did I want to say? The artists you mentioned, first of all, artists, actually one of the drivers of animal misuse and disuse and the mistreatment is actually social media. And artists who are largely people who are in the art in the music industry, they are really social media influencers. And it has been found that social media is one of the drivers of some of these undesirable exploitative practices that impact on wild animals. They think that by dancing with a snake, a reptile, a lizard around your neck is cool, but it's not cool. They are just becoming they are part of the whole the whole system that is exploiting these animals. And we believe social media influencers and artists especially, they can actually be more influential in a positive way if they used that influence to promote the rights and the well-being of wildlife. The other thing I wanted to talk about, why captivity is real and desirable. Remember when COVID-19 broke out and the whole world was locked down, scientists, up to now, scientists tell us COVID-19 originated from wild animals. We all know that currently more than 60% of emerging diseases are of animal origin, especially wild animals. Why? Because we have broken the natural barrier between us and those animals. And by bringing animals into our homes, we are further increasing the likelihood of these zoonotic diseases or animal-related diseases jumping from wild animals to us humans, and creating really serious circumstances for ourselves, like COVID-19, where the whole world was locked down just because some people prefer to eat certain types of wild animals. So by breaking that barrier, we make it so dangerous for us. It is a cost to our governments. It's a cost to the whole world. And that must stop.
Well explained, Edith, why we should not hide under captivity as a method of conservation. I must let you go. But a word to my viewer before we move out of the studios.
Yeah, of course, thanks so much, my viewers. I always enjoy speaking to you about these very, very important issues, sometimes which sound strange to majority of you, but this is the whole reason I'm here, so that we all understand that some of the things we take for granted are really important. Animals are really not for us, they are for themselves. Let's protect them.
Well, thank you so much, Edith Kabesime, who is from Wild Animal Protection, and there she is, the campaign manager on Wild Animal Protection in Africa. Thank you so much for your time, and of course, my viewers, thank you very much for being with us from 6:30 till now. Let's meet tomorrow, same time, and I guarantee you more interesting discussions there, and of course, your participation in a number of segments. Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono wishing you a lovely day and a blessed week. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.